Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 47th lesson of A Course in Miracles, y'all. And again, I'm so very excited about today's session. I think it's so important that we address this as a community. It is time to throw away all old ideas that we have learned and acquired in our childhood, to just bust open these lies, honestly, that we've been told. So the 47th lesson of A Course in Miracles says, God is the strength in which I trust. God is the strength in which I trust. And how appropriate, because today we're going to be focusing on our relationship with God and really reassessing those things that have been told to us about God and about ourselves. After posting the videos of our conversation with John Davis, I received a phone call from someone, and she told me that she was mostly impacted by two things from the first video. She said the first thing that she was impacted by was the picture of Jesus. It felt so authentic to her. And then the second thing that she was impacted by was my opening statement when I read from A Course in Miracles that said that God does not forgive because he does not condemn. God does not forgive because he does not condemn. And that so impacted her. The truth of that statement went straight to her heart and helped shape a completely different perception of God for her. It freed her in a way to look at forgiveness of herself and others in a completely different light. So after my conversation with her, I actually got a little bit emotional because it reminded me that though some of us have come across the truth from various sources, there are still many of us who do not know the truth, who do not know this stuff, and they do not know it because our power and our divinity has been kept secret from us. If you have followed my videos, you've heard many times that we have been trained into smallness since birth through social conditioning. And this is why we are here, y'all, on this platform, to simply remind ourselves and others the true essence of who we are. God does not condemn. Though we've been told this many times, God does not condemn. So 1 John 4:16 states, God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God, and God in him. God is defined as that love, period. So now that we've been given a definition of that which we call God or source, let's talk a little bit about who we are in relationship with God. This is critical for us to understand because many of us walk around in fear. We walk around afraid of God. We're afraid of going to hell. We're afraid that we're not good enough. We're afraid of death. And this fear is like a shadow that follows us around everywhere we go. What a way to live. What a slow, painful death that is indeed. In our last session, our guest, John Davis, talked about interviewing Neil Donald Walsh, who I absolutely love. This is the man who wrote the Conversations with God trilogy through automatic writing, which means that these books are from spirit. They are divinely written. And I'm telling y'all, the Conversations with God trilogy, the first, second, and third book, they are so delicious. They are literally food for the soul. So if you're not familiar with Conversations with God, Neil Donald Walsh was a man who was homeless and frustrated. He took out a legal pad and wrote a long letter to God asking so many questions. Why can't I get my life together? Why aren't my prayers being answered? What's going on? And he was, he was angry, he was frustrated, and then he heard a voice that said, do you actually want answers to these questions, or are you just venting? And Neil was like, I want answers to these questions. And so began a very long and beautiful dialogue of this conversation with him and God. And it's incredible, y'all. It's incredible. So I encourage everyone to buy or check out these books from the library, because they will change your life. They will change your life. They dismantle every single lie that we've been told about ourselves and God. So get the book, please, y'all. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna reference Conversations with God. I'm gonna reference things that are in the books, so that that speaks to the truth of what we're looking for, which is who we are, who God is, what is this thing about hell, why have we been told we're going to go to hell, and all those things. So on in the first book, pages 15 through 18, Neil is having a conversation with God, and God is explaining to Neil that it is the nature of people to love, then destroy, and then love again. And Neil is perplexed. He's like, why? Like, why do we do this? And God explains that all human thought and all human action is based on two things. Everything, our thought, our speech, our actions are come from one of two things, either love or fear. And God says this is why humans love, then destroy, then love again. And we do this because of the first lie that has been told to us. The first lie. And that first lie is that God cannot be trusted and that his love cannot be depended upon. This is what is conveyed, right? When we were growing up and we heard that we have a punishing God, and we're told that, you have this powerful, loving being who is available to you at all times, and he is all knowing. And we think, wow, that's amazing. And then the very next word we hear is, but you had better do what he asks you to do, or you are going to suffer. You're going to go to hell. And so it's as if as soon as we receive that love, it's withdrawn from us. And this can be devastating to the psyche. And it's been done to most of us. But y'all, on page 16 of this book, God says, yet if you knew who you are, that you are the most magnificent, the most remarkable, the most splendid being God has ever created, you would never fear. For who could reject such wondrous magnificence? Not even God could find fault in such a being. This is Source who said that, y'all. This is how God really feels about us. I wanted to talk about the belief that many of us hold that God would damn us to hell if we don't behave in a certain way. I remember being a child or a young adult and just being absolutely floored and tortured by the idea that God will send us to a hell for eternity. And I remember grappling with the concept and struggling at the thought of myself or anybody else weeping and gnashing their teeth forever. And it was the forever that actually bothered me. I mean, to think that you could be in a place of suffering for as long as the mind can conceive elicits great fear. To tell a child, right, that if they die without being saved, or if they sinned, which who of us can escape errors on any given day, right? It's actually a form of mental abuse to me, to be honest. You know, it's a form of mental abuse. I struggled with that for many years, and I remember being afraid and also being confused because it really didn't make any sense to me that we will worship this loving God who we are told loves us so much, but is capable of being so cruel. In fact, I know that I personally was told that we are all born in sin, that we have to work our way back to salvation and back to God's good graces. So, my question is for everyone, my question is, how can we be raised and raise our children to recognize their beauty and their power and their godliness if we all hold the belief that we were born into sin? That from the start, before we're even able to speak a word or do a deed, that we have all screwed up from the very beginning. Think about the implications of such a belief, how it impacts our perceptions of ourselves. This can be the ultimate experience of a low self-esteem, you know, that we're all born damned. So where did this belief come from? We're going to get into a little of that. God has an answer to where did this come from? And what I know it is, it's a part of the agenda to keep us controlled, contained, and powerless. So on page 183 of Conversations with God, Neil asks God about whether or not there will be judgment after death, right? And God's answer is no. You will not even be allowed to judge yourselves, because the way humans judge yourself, you will judge yourself harshly indeed. He said, no, there will not be any tally taking on the other side, but the soul itself does have an opportunity to observe your thoughts, words, and deeds in this physical realm and the things that it did, it thought and said, and decide if it wants to choose again and do something differently. And this is consistent, y'all, with all of the sources that we have referenced on this channel, including those who have had near-death experiences, even those who have had near-death experiences and send themselves to a hell, because they send themselves to a hell. Once they realize that they have created this realm, they are free to leave. And so on page 115 of Conversations with God, Source says, your happy destiny is unavoidable. You cannot not be saved. There is no hell except not knowing this. He says there is no hell except not knowing the fact that there's no way you cannot be saved. There's no way that you are destined to hell. And to not know that is hell, right? And this sounds exactly like what Dennis Bullock was talking about when he said that we cannot get this life wrong. He says we've already won just by being here. We cannot get it wrong. So I have a good friend, y'all, who once told me that he said on my best day, I'm like a filthy rat to God. And I leaned forward and I asked, do you really believe that? Do you really believe that God sees you like that? And he paused for a moment and he said, you know what? No, I don't believe God sees me like that. And in that moment, he realized he had adopted a belief that someone else had given him. It was not even his original thought, but a thought and a belief of someone who had told him that, and someone else who had told them that. I had also been told the same thing when I was younger, and I believed it as well. And this is what God is referring to when he says that we don't even hold beliefs from our own original thoughts, but of someone else's. We don't even accept the truth of our own authentic experience. But what we do is we rather refer to what's been told to us by our parents or, the church or the school system or whatever. We'll, instead of relying on our experience, we'll believe what was told to us. He even talks some more about that in the book when he talks about we believe that everything is bad. We believe that money is bad, sex is bad, laughing is bad, music is bad. He was like, we've learned to believe anything that is enjoyable to us must be wrong. And all it took from me with my friend was to ask the question, an inquiry for this powerful man to realize that he had been told a lie. I didn't even reject it. I clarified it. I just asked and said, do you really believe that? He was told this not to intentionally, people were told him this not to intentionally deceive him, but it was the belief of the person who had told them. And so let's delve deeper into this concept of hell and damnation. On pages 119 to 120, God breaks it down in this book and explains that because we were told we were bad in our earliest days, that we feel guilty about everything. And that feeling guilty is a learned response, that we have been taught to feel shame for even being born. God feels a type of way about this in this book, y'all. Source feels a type of way about this in this book. He says, anything I conceive, all that to which I give life is perfect, a perfect reflection of perfection itself, made in the image and likeness of me. So God is proud of his creations, her children, his sons and daughters. And when he sees us, when she regards us, God knows that we are extensions of herself, perfect rays of light. So God also tells us, while we have been told all these centuries that we were born into sin and have fallen short. And the answer is simple. If the masses believe that they are small, then the power remains in the few. It says, thus does power remain concentrated in the hands of the few rather than experienced through the hands of the many. And that is the intention, because we're able to be controlled. We're able to be contained if we believe that we're powerless. As long as we believe that we're small, that we fall short, that we're not good enough, then we will not experience our own power, our own divinity. In book 3 of Conversations with God, on pages 135 to 137, it talks about reincarnation. And while the truth about reincarnation was taken out of the Bible because the church did not want people knowing that, they couldn't have people walking around understanding if they don't get it right this time, they got another chance and another chance and another chance. They didn't want that in there. They wanted us to be afraid. They wanted us to feel guilty, because then what? We release our power. We give them our money, right? And so they took those out. This is why in the Bible, we read that Jesus was hated by those in power. Jesus knew his power, and people who know their power cannot be controlled. Even if you lock up their bodies, their minds are free from control and intimidation. And this is what this channel is about reclaiming our power through the remembrance of who we are, that we are made of love, from love, for love. So who are you really? Who are you really? How are we defined? In Conversations with God, book 1, page 86, I love this, y'all. It says, you are goodness and mercy and compassion and understanding. You are peace and joy and light. You are forgiveness and patience and courage, a helper in time of need, a comforter in time of sorrow, a healer in time of injury, a teacher in times of confusion. You are the deepest wisdom and the highest truth, the greatest peace and the grandest love. You are these things. And in moments of your life, you have known yourself as these things. Choose now to know yourself as these things always. Always create in the present moment to know yourself as these things. This book, again, will change your life. It will give you an accurate description of who you are. And so I know that I've said a lot this morning. I just wanted to ask the group, what things were you told growing up, either about God or yourself, that when you reflect back now, you think, no, you know what? That's not true. I believed that all these years, and that's not true. That's actually not true. Lucretia, I see you. Do you have anything that you remember?
What what I was told and what I'm still told is that God gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers, and that I just don't think is the truth. I just have
Repeat
never.
Repeat that again for me.
That in the Bible it says where God gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers, and I still hear that to this day, and I have never, still to this day, don't think that is the truth, because why would he as God want to see us not necessarily suffer, but be discouraged and sometimes, go through things and not just step in?
Mm,
I just can't see that as being true to me.
I agree. I agree. Why would God selectively say, I'm gonna put this burden on this person?
Right.
I'm gonna put this burden. I feel like they're the strongest, so I'm gonna put this burden on this person. No, it is us who create our experience. That's the biggest. I'm so glad you brought that up. That's the biggest untruth is that God, when we're challenged, God put that on us and just got, it takes all the responsibility of what we created from us. So you're absolutely right. That's not true. And often what we want, we get. What we create, we get. Now, I think the problem is that we don't know how to create a happy dream. We don't know how to appropriately create because it's not been told to us. So things such as telling the universe, I want, I want this. That's not getting what you want because the universe hears, oh, you, God, want. Let's continue to have this experience of wanting something. Simple things such as that. We're not told, and we're not told that we create our own experience. And so when we do have a challenge, many people have learned to, get on their knees and beg God to get them out of that situation instead of using their own powers of creation and say, okay, how have I created this situation? And what are ways that I can think, speak, and do different things to create something differently? And so, again, the difference from those two experiences is powerlessness. Please help me, please, and then power. No, let me use my powers of logic to to figure out what I need to do to have a happy dream. So thank you so much for that, Lucretia. Thank you so much for that. And
Yeah.
um so I wanted to ask everyone who's looking at this video. I'm having someone join us next week who had a near-death experience. And it's going to be an exciting conversation, y'all. An exciting conversation. And so I wanted to ask you if you want to join the conversation, if you want to be a part of this dynamic revolution of us learning who we are and stepping into our power, then send me an email. My email address is ACIM for A Course in Miracles, ACIM sharing at gmail.com. ACIM sharing@gmail.com. Send me an email and let's do this. Let's do this. What else are we doing, y'all? What else we doing? What else we doing? So I love y'all. I love everyone. And thank you so much for joining. And I will see you next week. Love you. Love and light.